Hey, it's me here. This is just a brief video because I want to make something clear. I do subscribe to the idea that there is a pandemic happening. The pandemic is not what they are telling us it is. Unless you want to count the seasonal flu as an annual pandemic, that's relevant. It's valid. You can do that. But what really concerns me in terms of a pandemic and that threatens the entire human race is not the flu. That does make people sick, and all of that stuff is very valid. But what is really actually a danger to humanity, to the whole thing, is suicide. That's something that we don't talk about. It's something about numbers that we don't know. And it's nothing that you hear from the media, but you do hear about it. You hear about it occasionally, of course, on the news, but more or less it's just from your local community, word of mouth, who did what. And when you do look at obits, if you do look at obits, then usually the ones who are committing suicide, if they don't outright say that, then they say suddenly. That doesn't mean all of the obits are like that, but quite many of them, because a lot of religious people view suicide as being sinful, and it's a character. It's bad for the character, and you never want to say somebody committed suicide because you don't want to speak bad about them after they're dead. But anyways, it's a reality, and it's a huge reality. When I was 13 years old, I experienced the first suicide. A friend of mine who I knew and I'd had a crush on, his name is Daniel. He had everything I thought going for him, and he did it. He killed himself, and it was horrific at that point in time. That was the 80s, early 80s, and that was young. But they're killing themselves much younger, and they're killing themselves much older too. Lois Lane, Margot Kidder, that really surprised me. Her suicide. Anthony Bourdain, I think is his name, that chef. His suicide. So many. And we all just, kind of, that's too bad, and then we move on without registering the facts. And the facts is that there are too many, and we are desensitized to it. And we just move on without recognizing what that actually means to humanity. And what's that saying about humanity? And I think, I know that we tend to blame the individual, and we tend to tell them that, or ourselves and our local communities and all the experts, that it's the individual. And they had a problem, they had a mental health problem, and it beat them. But that's not the case most of the time. It really isn't. I've been there. As a kid, I tried many times, overdosing, and I'm going to say my lifestyle was quite suicidal, because I was very much at risk, everything I did. But in my 30s, I'd had enough, and I decided I was going to do that. I was going to commit suicide. I had thought it was my son that was the deciding factor. Like, I thought I was harming my son, and he would be better off without me. And that's what made me go ahead and make the decision that I needed to leave this world. And make a long story short there, it was also my son that helped me understand that if I did actually go ahead and commit suicide, he would blame himself for the rest of his days, and I didn't want to sentence him to that, so I didn't do that. I stuck around. And out of that, I found a whole new structure for my life. I had to. I had to build a whole entire structure so that I could remain and do the things that I needed to do. And it wasn't until that breaking point that I found out what it was that I wanted to do. But a lot of people, they don't make it through that piece. It's quite possible because they've never faced suicide before. I have many, many times in my life, not just, taking my own life, but the risk of my lifestyle said that, I put my life in other people's hands many times, often. And I'm just lucky that I'm still here. So that's part of where I get my experience, the knowledge I have, and because I think, let me see, because I carry that on my wrist, I look out for that in other people, and it's incredible how many times you're going to see that on somebody, somewhere. And so there are people who have survived, faced that break, and survived and came through that, the other side, and didn't do that. And for that, I am grateful to them. And I am grateful I'm still here so that I can talk about the things that nobody else is talking about. Everybody else ignores. I guess because nobody else lives the way I have. Not many people survive it. Never mind come out on the other end to say, something's got to change here. Something's really got to change. And I can swear that there were so many times that's the only thing that kept me okay or intact a little bit, was the idea that there would be a future, and in that future I could bring forward the things that I needed to say about the shit that happened to me, the people that I met, the things they did, what I did back. That's a part of the story, and there's experience in there, there's knowledge, there's a lot of learning, and there's a lot of healing. And that's, I guess, ultimately what I want to share is that healing piece, as well as the emotion, because that's something that isn't allowed anywhere unless you're in some private area, designated spot for that kinds of thing. And I'm the complete opposite. I'm just bring it. It doesn't matter where you are, because that's how I am. I bring it anywhere I am. And that's being real. And that's what I appreciate seeing in other people. I don't appreciate chaos. I appreciate authenticity. Because from that, we can build some kind of different foundation, find out truths. And that's what I'm building my new path and my new life on. It's the light of that truth. It has to. It's the only thing I can live with. Really. Anyways. Thanks for listening.